The lights of the America's Got Talent stage burned bright that night, gleaming off the polished floor and glittering curtains that framed one of the world's most famous stages. The audience buzzed with anticipation, chatting, laughing, waiting for the next act that would either amaze them or fade into another forgettable performance. The judges Simon Cowell, Sofia Vergara, Heidi Klum, and Howie Mandel were already several auditions deep into the evening. Each of them had seen singers, dancers, magicians, comedians, and dreamers walk onto that stage. Some were brilliant, most were ordinary. No one expected what was about to happen. Backstage, a 15-year-old Filipino boy stood silently, clutching the silver microphone pendant that hung from his neck. His white Elvis-style suit shimmered faintly under the hallway lights, white with golden trim, perfectly pressed yet clearly handmade with love. His mother stood behind him, her eyes full of nervous hope. She whispered in Tagalog, "Anak, kaya mo yan. Just sing from your heart." He nodded, trying to steady his shaking hands. He had dreamed of this moment his whole life, not the fame, not the lights, but the chance to prove that his voice mattered. When the stagehand called his name, his heart nearly stopped. The curtains parted and he stepped into a wave of light. For a moment, everything felt unreal. The crowd, the cameras, the judges staring at him. His shoes felt heavy, his throat dry. Simon's eyes studied him carefully, that classic unreadable expression he wore whenever someone new walked out. "Hello there," Simon said, leaning toward his microphone. "What's your name?" The boy cleared his throat. "My name is Elijah, sir. I'm from the Philippines." His voice trembled, but he smiled politely. Sofia clapped softly and said, "He's so cute!" The crowd chuckled, some whispering to each other, wondering what kind of act he could possibly do. He didn't look like the typical powerhouse singer. Just a small quiet teen in a white suit that looked 2 sizes too big. Simon tilted his head slightly. "And what are you going to do for us tonight?" Elijah hesitated, then said softly, "I'm going to sing an Elvis Presley song." That caught Simon's attention. His eyebrow rose, half amused, half skeptical. Another Elvis impersonator, he thought. There had been hundreds, maybe thousands. Few could pull it off. The music started. The slow, timeless melody of "Can't Help Falling in Love." The crowd quieted. Elijah took a deep breath. The first note that came out was soft, trembling, almost unsure. But then something shifted. His voice deepened, warm and haunting, carrying a tone no one expected. Within seconds, the entire audience fell silent. He sang with emotion that didn't belong to a boy his age. Every word sounded like a confession, like he had lived every lyric. His eyes were half closed, lost in the song, as if Elvis's soul had found its way through him. His accent didn't hide the feeling, it made it more beautiful, more human. You could feel the ache in every note, the longing in every breath. Simon's expression changed. His usual poker face softened. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes fixed on the boy. Sofia's smile grew wider, her hand covering her heart. Heidi whispered something to Howie, who just nodded in disbelief. It was one of those moments where everyone in the room realized they were witnessing something special. As the chorus came, Elijah's confidence bloomed. His voice soared higher, full of strength and soul. The lights glowed golden around him, making him look like he was standing in a halo. You could see the tiny tremble in his lip, but his voice never cracked. Each lyric carried the weight of years. Years of dreaming, practicing, and believing when no one else did. People in the audience began to wipe tears. One woman whispered, "That's Elvis, but it's not, it's him." The cameraman zoomed in on Simon's face. His eyes were wide, his jaw slightly open. He didn't blink. There was something raw in his gaze, something almost emotional. Simon Cowell, the toughest judge in the world, was visibly moved. Elijah didn't see any of it. He was lost in the music. The stage around him disappeared. In his mind, he was back home in his small town in the Philippines, singing on his grandmother's porch, the radio crackling softly beside him. He could almost hear his mom humming along, could almost smell the warm evening air of home. For those few minutes, he wasn't performing, he was remembering. Then came the final line, "Take my hand, take my whole life too." His voice dropped into a soft whisper, barely audible, but filled with so much heart that the silence afterward felt like a sacred pause. The note lingered in the air, trembling, before fading completely. There was a heartbeat of silence, total stillness. And then the theater exploded with applause. The crowd leapt to their feet. People were cheering, crying, clapping. Sofia stood up first, her eyes shiny with tears. "That was beautiful," she shouted over the noise. Heidi clapped her hands together, grinning. Howie pointed at him and said, "That's a star right there." But all eyes turned to Simon. He didn't move for a moment. His hand was on his chin, his eyes locked on the boy. Then slowly, he stood up. It was rare, almost historic. Simon Cowell, standing for a performance. The entire crowd screamed even louder. Elijah's eyes widened, his breath catching in his throat. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Simon reached for his microphone. His voice was softer than usual. "I've heard thousands of singers on this stage," he said slowly. "But every once in a while someone walks in, and they remind me why I love this show. You didn't just sing that song, you lived it, you made it your own." The audience cheered again, and Simon added, "Elvis would be proud." Elijah's mother backstage burst into tears, clutching her chest. She whispered, "Thank you, Lord," over and over. The boy on stage covered his mouth, overwhelmed. The lights sparkled, the crowd kept cheering, and for a brief moment, time seemed to stop. The cameras captured the tears in his eyes, the way his shoulders trembled as he tried to smile through the emotion. The host walked up to him asking how he felt, but he could barely speak. I just wanted to make my mom proud," he said, voice breaking. The audience melted. Sofia reached out toward him from the judges' table and said, "She's already proud of you, sweetheart." And then came the unexpected. Heidi leaned toward Simon and whispered something, then pressed the golden buzzer. The golden confetti exploded from the ceiling, falling like rain over the stage. Elijah froze in disbelief, staring up as glittering flakes landed on his hair, his shoulders, his microphone pendant. His hands covered his face. The crowd roared even louder, chanting his name. Simon smiled, a real, warm smile. He pointed at the boy and mouthed, "Remember this moment." As the music swelled and the confetti kept falling, Elijah finally looked toward the audience. Somewhere in the crowd, he could see his mother, crying and clapping, shouting his name. He smiled through tears, whispered, "I did it, Ma," and lifted his hand toward her. The spotlight followed him as he stepped forward, his white suit glowing under the golden rain. That performance went viral overnight. Clips flooded social media. The Filipino Elvis, people called him. Millions watched, replayed, cried. But for Elijah, none of that mattered. What mattered was that one moment, standing on the world's biggest stage, singing from his heart and watching Simon Cowell, the man known for his brutal honesty, rise to his feet in pure respect. In the quiet after the show, long after the lights dimmed and the cameras stopped rolling, Elijah sat backstage, still covered in flecks of confetti. His mom sat beside him holding his hand. "You see," she whispered, "dreams do come true." He smiled, tired but happy, and said softly, "Wasn't just my dream, Ma, it was ours." And somewhere in that vast empty theater, the echoes of his voice still lingered. A young Filipino boy who dared to sing Elvis, and in doing so reminded the world that music has no borders, no age, no limits. It only needs a heart brave enough to sing.